So let us discuss about today's newspaper, that is 19th December 2015. The first article is related to the independence of CBI. We know that the CBI has multiple masters now. One is Central Vigilance Commission, the Government of India, and the Lokpal, and Supreme Court is also becoming a new master for the CBI. But however, the majority control, the administrative control and personal control, it is under the Government of India. So the CVC is supervising the corruption related investigation, but however its control is very weak on the CBI. So in this context, the personnel of the CBI, especially at the officer level, these are deputed from the IPS cadres. So these IPS, they are authority. Ultimately, the deputations tomorrow, they lie with the central government. So that's why lack of permanent cadre of its own is a major drawback for the independence of functioning of CBI. And added to this, the conviction rate of CBI is very poor with regard to the high profile cases and also where the politicians are involved. That shows that the shifting sands of the politics of the day, they are also shifting the behavior of the CBI. And the appointment of director is also highly controversial. Now, the Supreme Court's order of inquiry against the former chief of the CBI, this shows that to what extent the integrity is compromised at the highest ranks of CBI. So further, what is the way out? As I said before, there shall be a personnel of its own for CBI. And the second is, as like the CAG, where CAG is supervised by Parliament, we can also bring in parliamentary oversight with regard to CBI concerned. So in this context, wherever parliamentary oversight exists, to what extent it is effective is a major question. The reason is there are many other complaints about the parliamentary oversight. It is not giving due importance to the reports which are being tabled before it. So, and added to that, there is an element of rigidity because an investigative agency cannot work tardy and it has to have the swiftness in its actions. So, this political favoring of the CBI is reflected in various cases, that is with regard to the Bofors and also because that is disproportionate assets case against the Samajwadi Party chief and family, that is Mulayam Singh Yadav. So, in this context, so removing it from the political control is very necessary. The government of the day is very necessary. And on the other hand, as the article suggests, taking that to the parliament, under the control of the parliament, that did not, according to me, it may not give or serve the purpose. So in this context, creating an agency or else under the Lokpal, bringing the CBI as an independent authority that may be more functional, because the major demand of the Indian anti-corruption movement or India against corruption is this: the Lokpal shall have its own investigative machinery. If CBI is transferred to Lokpal, then it has to be totally under the control of the Lokpal. But however, CBI was given as an investigative agency for Lokpal, but they are not completely under the direct control of the Lokpal. So, here one case which is very important for us is Vineet Narayan case. So in Jain Hawala case, Vineet Narayan, when he filed a appeal on the autonomy of the CBI, the Supreme Court has given some limited autonomy to the CBI, where it has said there has to be some element of surprise in the attacks of the CBI and it need not inform the political masters about conduct of its investigations. So these are the various things with regard to the CBI autonomy. Now, Arunachal Pradesh, again, the drama between the governor and the chief minister, it is unfolding. Let us see what the case is about. Who are the actors in this? The governor was, J.P. Rajkova, and the chief minister is Nabam Tuki, and the leader who has defected from the Congress, it is Kalikopal. So now, the Congress is the ruling party and BJP is the opposition in Arunachal Pradesh. So, a 20 plus MLAs headed by a minister Kalikopal, they have defected or they have raised a revolt against the chief minister. Now, the issue went before the governor, and the governor has extended the session at his own will. And governor has no right to extend the session because it is the government of the day which has to recommend for the governor for that purpose. And in S.R. Bommai case, the role of the governor is very clear, and the Supreme Court has clearly said that the only ground where a majority has to be tested is the Legislative Assembly, not the Raj Bhavan. Now, after this, the government of the day, it has closed down the assembly, and the speaker, he has disqualified the 20 members who raised the voice against the chief minister. So in this disqualification, then the governor ordered for a parallel assembly, and in this parallel assembly, before it is conducted, the deputy speaker, he has revoked the disqualification imposed by the speaker. So now, in this parallel assembly, a no confidence motion was passed, and the chief minister and his council of ministers are supposed to resign. So this is what is the entire drama that has unfolded. So in this parallel assembly, who are the participants? The people who are supporting the chief ministers were not the participants. The dissidents plus the Bharatiya Janata Party members were the participants. So in this all, the governor's role has become highly controversial, ordering for a makeshift parliament, that is assembly, and also extension of the session of the assembly by his own, and he also dictated what shall be the agenda in the house for the day, where the first action in the house, it has to be related to the removal of the speaker in the house. So this all shows that governor has taken up in a proactive role. So this has opened up again the governor's role in the state. This particular issue, which has been almost dead for a few years because of the changing way of the changing of politics in India. Now, related to the European Parliament, we all know what is happening in Maldives. So, Abdul Amin, the president of Maldives, he has won under many unwanted circumstances. Or else, the election of the President Amin in unexceptional circumstances, it is a test to the Maldivian democracy. And Mohammad Nasheed, who was the former president, he was arrested under the charges of sedition and threat to the security of the nation. After that, Abdul Amin, he started resorting to the authoritative tendencies. Even his own vice president was arrested on the charges that he has tried to blow off the president's boat. So in this context, the authoritative tendencies, crackdown on the dissent protests, and lack of respect for the democratic rights all made the European Parliament to call for the sanctions against the Maldives. Now coming to the next article, that is Sushma Swaraj statement, the neighborhood first policy. So the diplomacy starts at our borders, so neighborhood, and it is very much important for our South Asian relationship. The reason is this: most of the countries around us in South Asia, they have one or the other cultural relationships which are strong ties with India. But however, the Nepal crisis and also the blockade, it has got its own challenges, and also that has become a greater irritant with regard to our neighborhood policy, where we have even has to go to the Human Rights Commission, and all this has totally messed up. And also the Maldives situation is not very better for India. So because India is a traditional supporter of the Mohammad Nasheed. Next is NSCN. If you can see, Government of India and also NSCN-IM, Isaac Mubaya, Socialistic Conference of Nagaland, the National Socialistic Conference of Nagaland, Isaac Mubaya, they signed an agreement. So as per this agreement, they have to come to a final conclusion. So the Naga peace, it was taking years together. The dissent has started way back in 1946 itself, and it is continuing and continuing. So in this context, the government, for the first time, it has clarified that it is not a peace accord, but it is a framework agreement. So based on this, an accord has to be finally arrived at. So coming to the Naga Accord, or else Naga Agreement, what I will call it as. So we need to understand a few things. The Prime Minister's office directly handled this, keeping the Home Ministry away from this. And also, the states which have implications with this agreement, they are not been involved or consulted. That is, the Manipur, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, they are not been considered, and Assam. So it means the federation did not work or take its role in the Naga peace agreement. So further to this, another issue is after this was signed between Nagaland, NSC and IM, the insurgency has increased where the Nagas are residing in the other states, that is in Manipur, etc. It means NSC and IM is recruiting actively in the outside in the states outside the Nagaland. So that is one thing which is a concern for the future security of India. And next is anti-tobacco laws. Here, Australia has won a legal battle against the publishing of plain packaging on the smoking tablets, on the cigarettes. So, between the Australian government versus Philip Morris, what it is being said is the plain packaging was objected by the Philip Morris. Plain packaging means where most of the cigarette packet will be occupied by these the skull and all these pictures, and the branding etc. has to be totally missing. So this is what is called a plain packaging. It has got wider implications for the anti-tobacco campaign. The reason is the tobacco is the most or second largest killer in India, and it is an indirect cause for increase in cardiovascular diseases and cancer. If you take all these factors into consideration, tobacco and tobacco-induced killings, it becomes the largest killer in the country. So in this context, this plain packaging also shall be made available in India. So it is going to be implemented from April 2016. So the law, which is, or else this particular judgment of the Australian tribunal, will provide an impetus towards implementing this. Next is public-private partnerships. So in PPP model, there is a major drawback. Most of them are taken up in the infrastructure projects. In this context, what the Comptroller and Auditor General, he pointed out is, in the port sector, though the PPPs are brought in with expansion of the capacities, or with the aim of expansion of the capacities, nothing has been materialized on the ground. So only 33% of the capacity anticipated was created, which is too low to the expectation. So in this context, the oversight on the PPPs is a major question. So how to make the private partner in the PPP more accountable is a major question. So how these projects have to be tracked, and whatever the targets, how they have to be achieved, interests of the government have to be protected is a major issue. The France far right, already I have discussed this article. So the Mary Le Pen, she performed extremely in the first round, that is Front National is her party. In the second round, Sarkozy's, center-right Republican, and the President Francois Hollande's Socialist Party, they have come together, where the Socialists withdrew from the elections to keep the Mary Le Pen's Front National from winning the elections. The Mary Le Pen anti-Semitic, racial, and extreme right views, these are not appreciated by the French people, but however it is not a moment for triumphalism or moment for victory for the others. The extreme support which she got in the first round is something a dangerous signal to the France itself. So the France which has given the values of liberty, equality and fraternity to the world, if it stands itself in the far right hands, probably the world also has something to lose on to it. So in this context, the growing immigration issues and also the economic crisis, unemployment and austerity measures, all these are making the people to move towards the far right. And Obama-Syria strategy. So if you take the Obama-Syria strategy, the major contention between the Russia and USA, it is this. The Russia wants continuation of the existing President al-Assad, Bashar al-Assad, in one or the other form. The United States opposes to this. According to United States, continuation of Bashar al-Assad will encourage or will provide strength to the Iran against its ally Saudi Arabia. And the second thing is, it is directly playing into the hands of the Russia. So in this context, Islamic State and its growth has made the United States to rethink on its strategy. And the second issue is, the Republicans are demanding for support from the ground. It means more and more ground forces need to be sent by the America to the Syria. And the third thing is, zero civilian casualties in American aerial bombing is also under severe criticism. The reason is, because of this zero civilian casualties policy, the aerial bombing was not effective. So these are the things which is making the America to revisit policy. So in this context, the forthcoming ISSG meeting, that is International Syria Support Group meeting, it is going to find a new strategy to fight the Islamic State. And added to that, you also know that the role of Turkey has become highly controversial. It is gunning down of Russia's aircraft, bombing of Kurds who are actively fighting against the Islamic State. These are one thing which is there in the news recently. And Turkey is also criticized for being supporting to sell the oil of Syria, which has been under the control of Islamic State. And on the other hand, if you can see, neither the Kurds nor the Iraqi forces or nor the Assad's forces, they are not interested to go and fight in the core of the Islamic State. So unless this core is destroyed, the Islamic State will not get away. So, and the second danger with the Islamic State is, it is building a prototype state already with the taxation laws, etc. So previously Al-Qaeda has remained as a non-state actor, but it is slowly building a state kind of structure, that is with the various new laws it is implementing, and also bringing the governance structures in it. So this is going to be definitely a dangerous sign. This is about the things. Thank you very much and all the best.